Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Film Journal podcast. Don't forget, if you enjoy these episodes, you can also find them on your favorite podcast stream, iTunes, Spotify, and many, many more. This is a new installment of the Film Journal podcast, a different thing we decided to do. It's going to be called High and Low. And in every installment of High and Low, we'll be discussing either an actor, actress, or director, and one particularly great film that defines their career, and one that's rather bad. But I think the bad discussion will be fun because you can find out their true talents and abilities or, artistic tendencies by watching a bad movie. Would you agree, Ryan? How have you been, by the way?
I'm doing rather
got
well.
You in between sips
nice
there.
to see you again. This is going to be a really fun one. Yes. You were breaking up a little bit with your audio just then, so I hope everyone caught all that.
I was.
But
Well, I think you expected me to talk more. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, so we've been talking about this idea for a while now, and it's finally come to fruition. And we have some really good ideas lined up for further installments of this, should we decide to continue it. But the one that I think, maybe the second one that spawned this entire idea is the show that we're doing today, which is the Tony Curtis episode. There's one other star that we have in mind who I'm dying to get to in the future, but we'll save that for another day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this was all born out of our experience of watching The Manitou, which I believe which is our second film of the day. For everybody waiting with bated breath, the films we chose to discuss the career of Tony Curtis are the fabulous Some Like It Hot by Billy Wilder. And then we'll find out, kind of the word on The Manitou is bad, but whether or not we agree will be a topic of discussion.
The Manitou?
The Manitou. No, it's Manitou. It's Manitou.
Is it?
Right?
They keep saying Manitou in the movie. Are they not?
They say a lot of things in the movie. They say Panawichi Salatu. They say all sorts of stuff. And basically, I think we were trying to look for a forum to discuss the Manitou. And then we started talking about Tony Curtis's early career. And here we are at High and Low. So thank you all for tuning in.
Yes. The discussion about where to fit the Manitou in a lot of good ideas came out of that. But this was probably the best one. We talked about remember doing Exorcist ripoffs. That was going to be one of them with the Manitou.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, William Girdler, who directed the Manitou, also directed another Exorcist ripoff, which is Abby. If you, I watched it recently. It's only available online on YouTube because Warner Brothers launched a lawsuit at the time the movie was released and banned it, out of existence because of its, rip-off nature of The Exorcist. But
is it good?
It's good. It's good. It's William. If you're familiar with William Marshall, the actor who's the lead in the movie, he plays the Exorcist. He was Blackula, and he also played Dr. Richard Daystrom in the classic Star Trek episode "The Ultimate Computer." So he's good in anything. He has a very commanding presence of the screen. So if you haven't seen Abby, I would definitely check it out.
Okay, I'm going to definitely watch that.
Yeah.
So we got a great note in the chat. Oftentimes, if you're a new listener, we're reading from the chat questions here because we do a live stream. So we have Trembling Colors. He's a stalwart fan, and thank you for tuning in, my friend. He says Tony Curtis had great hair. He did. He had great hair. He had a lot of great talents and assets. Ryan, what's your summation of Tony Curtis, and what's his sort of personality as a star?
Well, the hair is one thing. I think his also very expressive eyes are another thing, with the very bushy eyebrows. Gives him a very distinctive and memorable look, and to his persona. His career is very interesting because he had a big splash with The Sweet Smell of Success, which you've talked about on your channel before.
One of my favorites.
Great movie. That was where he really became, a more household name, or a more presence in Hollywood.
He broke out of his pretty boy image as a teen beat magazine, or I guess whatever the 50s, answer to that would be. He broke out of that paradigm as being someone that might have been even hated by the male audience for his prettiness, and established himself as an actual real actor.
Yes. And then he had a string of very, very successful, high profile work for a couple years, and then he seemed to just kind of fizzle out. Not long after Some Like It Hot, which is kind of interesting. He was around. He definitely made many, many more movies, but none of them really had the cultural cachet or impact of Sweet Smell of Success, Some Like It Hot, and the name of the other one is escaping me for right now. It's the Defiant Ones, with Sidney Poitier. Yes.
Truly interesting, because 1959 was a great year for him, and he was also in Operation Petticoat, a mildly amusing movie that I also watched in preparation for this with Cary Grant, where he kind of plays into what was his persona in the 60s, which is this kind of lovable trickster, which is definitely his role in Some Like It Hot, as well as in this, and to a certain extent, in a small way, also in Sweet Smell of Success.
And you've hit it big when you can guest star on the Flintstones as yourself. So the Return of Stoney Curtis episode in season 6. So
why do you suppose he couldn't make the transition into the 60s?
I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. It's most actors like this were able to maintain presence. Maybe he needed some kind of studio backing or something like that. I really couldn't tell you. It's kind of fascinating that he had this very, very kind of quick lightning in a bottle ultra fame, and then became a stock player. I think would be kind of fair to say through the 60s and 70s.
I mean, from the period of like 1955 to 1960, he was on fire. The Vikings, he's got a fine role in that. I don't think it plays to his talents necessarily. That's Kirk Douglas's show. He's in Spartacus in I think a fairly thankless role, right? I think he gets molested by Laurence Olivier in that movie, if I'm not wrong.
He had a comeback with the Boston Strangler in 1968.
Have you seen that?
I have not seen that, but it's talked about very, very much on the audio commentary for the Manitou as one to see.
I'm going to check that out because I did hear good things about that as well. Okay, do you want to jump into our... I mean, first, let me ask you this. Do you think Tony Curtis is a good actor?
Yes, I do.
I mean, we picked him for this. He's definitely a name people remember. I think based off the success of Some Like It Hot, which is maybe one of the greatest comedies ever made.
Yes, I think that's fair to say. I think as a comedic actor, he definitely has a lot more going for him than a straight dramatic actor. But I mean, I don't think many people would argue that he's a very memorable and well-known American icon of cinema. Not to the extent of other people that you may think of the golden age, but I think he deserves a place up there for his work. And of course, his long-lasting legacy is also his daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis, who became, I would say, maybe even perhaps a bigger star than he did.
I think she became a bigger star in terms of she probably made more money. She's had a career that's endured many decades, but I don't think that Jamie Lee Curtis is in any kind of way an icon of cinema. I think that her father has a much more profound impact on.
I mean, come on, the one of the original Scream Queens, Halloween, The Fog, all that. I would challenge you on that.
She's a niche personality. I think she's
she never really hit the crossover into like prestige real movies. She occupies this place as a horror icon, which, to be fair, is more long lasting a reputation and a career move than most people will give them credit for.
Yeah, you can go to the horror show circuit and sign autographs for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
But I didn't mean to talk badly about Jamie Lee. She's in a lot of great movies. Fish Called Wanda, True Lies, where she's truly terrific, and Trading Places, which is
I know you're really excited for Freaky Friday redo. Coming.
I've never seen the first Freaky Friday, but I can't imagine it's not an enjoyable movie, right? There's got to be some. It's such a great premise.
I don't know. I've seen the original one, but I've not seen the Jamie Lee, Lindsay Lohan one. Sorry.
Well, now there's a 3-film box set you can buy once this is over. Okay, let's talk about Some Like It Hot. Had you seen this film before?
Oh yes, a couple times, and this is one of the greats. I mean, anything by Billy Wilder, of course, is kind of automatically put up on a higher level. But there's something really, really magical about this movie. Not just because of how kind of risque it was for the year it came out and kind of how daring it is. It's also just remains very, very funny. I mean, if you watch a lot of old time comedies, it's hard to really laugh out loud at them a lot. Like if you can enjoy them, you can kind of chuckle, you get the jokes, but you're not really laughing out loud like you would with kind of a more contemporary comedy. This is a movie that is laugh out loud funny. There are great jokes. There are amazing setups with excellent deliveries and punchlines and follow through. And from beginning to end, it's just delightful.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And I think honestly that Tony Curtis, everyone wants to talk about Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe everyone wants to talk about her, but Tony Curtis, I think, makes the movie. Mm-hmm. He's sort of the straight man, but he's also incredibly funny in just how much of a scam artist he is, in all of his trickery. And the funniest joke in the movie to me is, if you're familiar with the premise, Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon play two down on their luck musicians who are playing in a speakeasy in Prohibition era Chicago. They accidentally witness the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, escape with their lives, but they know the mob is on their trail. So they dress up and pretend to be women to sneak away to Florida, which is coincidentally a nice respite from the chilly Chicago winter, and to hide amongst all these other women. And they meet Marilyn Monroe, and both of them fall in love with her, though they have to keep up this ruse. Though Tony Curtis, he demands like exacting fealty from Jack Lemmon, who's the less shrewd of the two. So he demands he stay in the women role and cannot deviate. We have to keep up the ruse. But Tony Curtis allows himself to dress up as a sort of Cary Grant type parody, where he pretends to be a multimillionaire. Now, one of the funnier jokes is when the band leaders of the female band ask them where they studied, they say the Sheboygan Conservatory, right? And everyone goes, okay. And obviously Marilyn Monroe hears this. She meets Tony Curtis, who she thinks is a rich millionaire. So in an attempt to appear more erudite, learned, more worthy of his time and attention, he asks her, where did you study? And she goes, oh, the Sheboygan Conservatory. And Tony Curtis goes, good school. It's like, that's the funniest. Yeah. Shell Oil Jr. Yeah. Terrific.
It's very much the kind of humor that you'd see later on like Seinfeld, where, George is always making up stuff. And it's like, who's your favorite author? Oh, Glavin.
Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good one. Yeah. I like him.
Yeah. No, it's a great movie, and it's a great movie because it's real. It doesn't necessarily have anything political to say necessarily, but it's a great comedy of manners about how women and men interact with each other and the lengths that they'll go to keep up a certain appearance to snag a mate, right? I mean, like Marilyn Monroe, who's often thought of as this like, very put upon tragic star. That's sort of her persona. I think a lot of people haven't even seen her films, but you're so captivated by her image, right? But in this, she plays someone who's not very intelligent and also somewhat of a scammer herself. She tries to lie to get into bed with Shell Oil Jr. And for that reason, it appeals to everybody. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of it's very lighthearted, and it's definitely directed by Billy Wilder and written. Because like most comedies today, you don't watch it, laugh a million times, and then say, I just feel really hollow because it felt like a really long Saturday Night Live skit that was just full of absurdism and funny things for laugh's sake. But it's a movie that is a genuinely good story, that you care about the characters.
Yeah, it's really well constructed, and it keeps moving the change of pace and the change of location really helps the movie move along too. The fact that we have the beginning of the movie set in Chicago, you have all the Prohibition era type stuff, the speakeasy, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, all that, and then we have the extended middle sequence of the movie on the train, which offers a load of different scenarios for things to go wrong, and then of course the climax in Florida. So there's that. I also really enjoy comedies like this that are farcical in nature, like a complete and total farce of a subject where the premise is so ridiculously absurd, but you commit to the bit and you keep going full steam ahead, no matter what. It doesn't matter how absurd or ridiculous things become. You just keep going with it, and that's what this movie does. To the best extent possible. Right when we meet Joe and Jerry, who become Josephine and Daphne later on. I mean, they're the ugliest women imaginable,
sure.
and it would be unfathomable for anyone to actually believe that they are women, and yet everyone goes along with it. Now, yes, it's a movie;
Right.
it's meant to be funny and silly, but the fact that everyone kind of keeps going with it and no one really questions anything is part of the joke, and that makes it even more funny, in my opinion.
Especially when the gangsters meet them in the elevator and then want to find out what their room number is and ask them out. Right.
Yes, and every guy is after them. That's
Yeah.
the funniest part too, is that all these guys are just dying to go out with them, and they're not. You never see them really after Marilyn or any of the other girls. They're always after the two guys.
I read the great essay that's in the Criterion Blu-ray, which has some good features. It's not, no audio commentary, which is a shame. But
you got to get the Kino Lorber. The Kino Lorber disc has a good commentary.
Yeah, there's a great essay, but I can't remember the name of the author. But he talks about how this is not a movie, and I think he was kind of throwing water on a lot of contemporary critics who would like to reevaluate this as some kind of political movie about the idea of gender roles, et cetera, et cetera. But he makes a very strong case that it is not that, right? And he said because Billy Wilder didn't have an ending in mind and they tried like 5 different endings and they went with what was funniest, he goes, that's clear evidence that there's no agenda to this film. Wilder just wanted to make the funniest movie he possibly could. And they came up with a great ending line that Cobra Malibu, another great guy, says in the chat here, which is, you can't marry me. I'm a man. Nobody's perfect. It's
yeah, there was a lot of contention about that final line in the movie about what was going to be the ending of the movie. And this is in some of the special features and commentary tracks. They talk about this. And they thought when that line was proposed, they thought that was the dumbest, stupidest, worst way to end the movie. And the writer stood up for his position. He says, no, you have, everyone's expecting to have this, giant explosion at the end of the movie where, he's revealed to be a man and it blows up in their face and all this stuff. The right way to pay it off is to have like the most unexpected and bland, banal kind of response to everything, which is nobody's perfect. And he delivers it straight on, doesn't look, doesn't move, doesn't flinch. And it's just like blissfully ignorant. It's hilarious.
I can't have children. I don't care. I smoke, fine with me. But it's also interesting. I'd say the one really interesting element of the movie that if you're going to look at it from a sort of social critique is Jack Lemmon's falling into his character so deeply to where he starts like acting like a woman, right? To where he does allow himself to be proposed to by, he sort of forgets his pursuit of Marilyn, which he also has one of the other funniest lines is when she crawls up into his cabin on the train and she goes, "Oh, are we having a party up here?" And he goes, "Yeah, it actually might turn into a surprise party here in a little bit," which is just great, But
I don't think it's meant to be taken in a political context of his like gender transitioning or anything like that. But if the movie was made nowadays, it 100% would be. But
there would be. It's
more that he's such a malleable personality. Yeah, he's very easily manipulated and told what to do. So he finds himself in this position, and yeah, he's the one at the beginning who's having the most trouble with it. Really, like, oh, how do they walk in these heels and all this, and then he kind of just throws himself into the role, which is great.
Yeah, it's and yeah, because Tony Curtis is not a very good woman. Hello, it's me. He does this little affected voice that's terrible. You can tell he really does not like it. At the first chance he gets, he pretends to be somebody else.
But he looks very nervous. He looks extremely nervous while he's doing that. While Lemon is just kind of living it up as flamboyantly as possible.
Absolutely. And then Marilyn Monroe, it's maybe there's a little bit of a class dimension there too, where they get together. And I think any modern audience would say, oh, well, they reconciled too quickly after all this subterfuge and whatnot. But they both realize they're both lower class kids who are trying to get ahead and trying to get by. And they put aside their pretensions of any sort of aspiration to higher class mode, and they decide to be together. And that's what's going to make them happy. Which
There's
is
probably also a level of, is she really that shallow, or is she really that dumb? Does she not probably subconsciously know that's him, or that's the same person or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not meant to be explicitly explained, but there's probably something there that clicks in the back of her mind,
How many other Marilyn Monroe films have you seen?
I'm very partial to How to Marry a Millionaire. I think that's a really, really great film. It's probably one of my favorites with her. 7-Year Itch, that's a good one. Also Billy Wilder. That was the first one they did together. Niagara and Bus Stop. Yeah, and I'm probably forgetting some other ones.
Have you seen Niagara?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
good.
Probably my favorite. I think that's a tremendous movie. I think it's one of the most beautiful movies ever filmed. Trembling Colors says, I haven't Spats Columbo is a very tragic character. I remember being very disturbed by his death scene. That's another thing too that the movie does include is there's lots of scenes of violence, and there's a lot of interest in the gangster characters. The film opens with a really kind of spectacular stunt car chase with these, with a hearse and a fire truck and police cars. And then, yes, there's this very elaborate assassination plot a la Godfather 3 towards the end, where gangsters jump out of a cake and murder the Spats Columbo wing of the gangster party, which, is just kind of.
Well, they're there for this is the best part also convention. Is the amount of just little jokes thrown into the background. They're there for the Italian opera lovers convention, of course.
Right.
Who wouldn't be? If you're just an average Italian American New Yorker, come into Florida for the opera convention, nothing to see here.
But yeah, I do truly think that Tony Curtis shines in this.
You made a good point about him being the straight man, and I think that goes underappreciated, and as do a lot of straight men in comedy. Yes. Because whether you're the Lou Costello or the Jack Lemmon in this picture, for instance, I mean, you're getting the majority of the laughs because you're putting yourself out there and you're being the butt of the jokes. But when you have to play that kind of the straight man, the stiff role, it's kind of a thankless job. But he does it rather well here, and that kind of stiff upper lip, kind of standoffish look that he has on his face all the time while he's dressed as the woman. Adds a level of comedy to it, but it's also, kind of hides his own anxiety as this character.
Yeah, I think Tony Curtis has this kind of, and it's true to his roots. I mean, he grew up very poor. He was born of Jewish immigrants from, I think, Romania. They didn't have hardly any money. And he enlisted in the Navy and then studied acting on the GI Bill. And he was so handsome and good looking. He had these pretty eyes, his curly, cute hair, that he was cast in lots of teeny bopper kind of roles. And I think that he has a certain scrappiness about him, right? You could tell that even though he's pretty, he has a little bit of a tougher edge, and you want to see him succeed. And I think that was predominantly his personality. He's always sort of this underdog. This is like persona, whether it be in the Vikings against the tyrannical, Kirk Douglas character. Vikings is a very good movie, by the way. He and Janet Leigh are not the best part about it. It's a very sort of thankless good guy role. But I'm just curious, do you have anything else we can say about Something Like It Hot, other than it's great? Because I think there's a lot more to say about Tony when we talk about his performance or what he's supposed to represent, like in the Manitou, right?
I think a question I would have for you is, how do you feel about Something Like It Hot in terms of the Billy Wilder filmography? Where would that fall for you?
Definitely up towards the top.
Okay, agreed. Same. It's not my. It's hard to say because I'm more of a just naturally inclined for the dramatic. So, Double Indemnity is just, I can't. I don't think I can top that.
Double Indemnity is a film I've seen probably 6 or 7 times. And, I never think of it as being one of my favorite movies, but it's always so infinitely watchable and explorable,
What about compared to The Apartment, for instance, which was Billy's other, big comedy with
I haven't seen it.
Jack Lemmon. Oh, you haven't seen The Apartment? Oh,
no,
definitely. You gotta watch it. Yeah, no. Fantastic, fabulous movie.
I know.
Highly recommend it. It's sorry, I
know, what a bum ass loser. How could anyone possibly tune into a show with me? Oh yeah, I'll check that out. A classic. Okay, I've seen Sunset Boulevard. I've seen Sabrina.
Stalag 17.
No. Okay. Lost Weekend, yes. Lived that one.
Oh, Major and the Minor.
No.
Great. Oh, fantastic comedy. Very, very funny with Ray Milland, Ginger Rogers,
who we both love. Who's one of our favorites.
So, I mean, I would say this is one of the movies of golden age, black and white, that I think is a good gateway film for modern audiences to kind of get experience and get used to older films, because it's so good on so many levels. You always have to kind of find the right film if you're trying to get somebody younger into these types of movies. You need to find the right one so you don't scare them away. And this is definitely one that I would recommend to kind of introduce people to older films.
You know what? You're so right, because that's actually, I'm going on a podcast tonight also as a guest on the Granite Mountain Movie Club show. And we're going to be doing a podcast with me and an assembly of people where we list off 5 movies that we would pick if we were teaching a high school class. To introduce, he goes, what 5 movies would you show to a class to have them appreciate American culture, heritage, etc. Right. And maybe I should have picked this, because it's astounding how the generational appeal this movie has. Right. Yeah. There's never a dull moment. It's always moving. And it's a very positive movie, in my opinion.
And I think a lot of Billy Wilder's movies would fit that bill for having a cross-generational appeal and having very modern sensibilities to them, that they don't feel old-fashioned. They don't feel, I'm trying to the right word. Like, they don't feel fuddy-duddy or old. And I don't mean that in disrespect to any other older movies that we love just as much, but like I said, you for some people, you got one shot, and if you show them the wrong movie, it's like, I'm never going to watch another black and white movie again. I'm never going to watch anything old again. So I would put this one up there highly,
because I think at the core of it, it's about striving, getting ahead, winning the girl, falling in love, being your true self.
It's also just funny. It's holds up. Its comedy is timeless. Like, it's like I Love Lucy, which is just timeless. It holds up. There's something about comedy that just, if it works, it works. It doesn't matter how old it is.
You care about the characters too.
Yeah.
Did you care about it?
Interesting fun fact. Marilyn had a clause in her contract that all of her movies had to be in color, and she actually had to sign did a waiver. She agreed to do this movie in black and white at the insistence of Billy Wilder, because when they were doing the makeup testing for the guys in drag, they just had a kind of realization that it was not going to work in color at all. Like, it was going to look grotesque or very fake. And so in black and white, they were able to pull it off. And so Marilyn, that good on her part for not being so kind of vain and, oh no, I must make every movie in color. She's like, no, I understand. Like, this is good for the movie. This is good for everyone. And she did it. So that was kind of a interesting tidbit there.
I think the movie does work. I can't imagine it working in color and not coming off as kind of like a pageant 60s musical kind of thing. Like a Hello Dolly or something.
Yeah. Or like a meme or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And she did star in The Misfits in black and white, which I believe was her last film, right?
Yeah, that was her last film. Was that in black and white?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Have you seen that?
I have not.
Incredible.
That's the one with Clark Gable, right? And he died while they were making it.
Yeah. Incredible movie. Really, really quite affecting. I think she's great in that too. Just really sexy in that movie. In this movie, she's like very cute. You know, she's beautiful, she's gorgeous, and very.
I love the scene though where she comes out with the ukulele, you know, doing the dance number. That is probably one of her best moments in the movie. It's just George froze up, of course. He has a
No,
bad
can you see me?
connection.
I'm back.
You're using the Wi-Fi again, I see.
I know. Yeah, I am. I'm back. What are you
But,
doing? Plugging into the fucking AI or central intelligence or what? I mean,
yeah, fiber optic. You know.
yeah,
I'm in the Matrix.
I don't have that. I need that probably. We haven't had that issue though since like our first few episodes.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm in a different part of my basement.
So anyway, I mean, we could go on and on, but Some Like It Hot is an absolute classic. Highly recommended to anyone who hasn't seen it. And I'm thankful that we did this because it was an excuse to watch it again. And I haven't seen it in quite a while, and it was just as delightful as I remember seeing it before.
Yeah, I agree. And my wife really enjoyed it as well and laughed. And she's often a captive audience to things. And I did try to get her.
The Manitou.
No, she saw like part of the Manitou when the giant growth on the person's back, on the gal's back, was getting somewhat large. And she was like, this is gross. And just walked out. And I go, okay.
It's fantastic.
Okay, fine. Well, the Manitou is a movie that I watched for some reason. I don't remember why. I think I was kind of getting into William Girdler a little bit because I love Grizzly. Now, William Girdler is an interesting character. He made 9 movies by the age of 30, and then he died. In an explosive helicopter accident. But among some of his, I know. It's and according to the Manitou commentary track, which was done by Troy Howarth, which was incredible, fantastic. I mean, the guy has come in with facts nonstop, and he's also got good opinions and evaluations of the movie and how it relates to the book by Graham Masterson. I highly recommend it. I actually I bought a book by Troy Howarth on John Carpenter that I have yet to read. So I'm going to get after that because I was very impressed with his commentary. But according to the commentary track, Girdler, according to people close to him, actually did have often weird premonitions about dying at 30, or he would say sort of, gallows humor things about, I'm going to die at 30. I'm not going to make it very, and he did. So Day of the Animals, I've not seen, which Trembling Colors has mentioned. Leslie Nielsen is in it. I have to get on that. But I have seen Grizzly, and then you've seen Abby.
Yes.
And he had a coterie of other great movies. But The Manitou was probably his most prestige project. He had the best cast.
I would say so.
Shot in scope. And
great cast. I mean, you're talking about exquisite, genre cast members here who have lived, whose reputations have lived on, well after this. Talking about like Michael Ansara, Burgess Meredith, and then cameos by, other people, even like Ann Southern is in this movie. So there's a lot of fun things to see in the Manitou besides the visual effects and the hallucinatory, LSD inspired Star Wars meets The Exorcist, high concept that it is.
Yeah, he pitched it, Girdler did, as Star Wars meets The Exorcist. I don't know how well he came through on that promise when he was interviewed in Starlog magazine before the movie's release. But Ryan, would you want to give people kind of a rundown of the plot of The Manitou? What is it about? What an engaging title, The Manitou.
Yeah. What is The Manitou? So The Manitou is the story of a young woman who is seeking medical evaluation for a strange growth that has appeared on the back of her neck. This growth has, rapidly escalated in size over the last, 24 to 48 hours. And all of the medical professionals that she sees seem to be baffled by what it is. And on X-ray imaging, it seems to resemble a human fetus on the back of her neck.
No way.
And so, no way. And did you know that in Japan in 1969, they also found yes, that they found a fetus growing on some boy's brain?
That's so crazy. Japan, what do they get up to over there? But go ahead.
So I forgot. I actually did research that, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Sure.
So anyway, so this woman has this growth on the back of her neck, and so they decide, let's operate and cut it out. But during the operation, strange things begin to happen, and the surgeon loses control over his own body and starts cutting himself. And so her friend, who is the strangest, way to involve other characters, I guess, in this plot, is that her ex-boyfriend is Tony Curtis, who is a scam artist, Swami mentalist,
Yeah.
tarot card reader, sure. And he is consulted over this. He somehow, after having a seance where a tar-covered goo medicine man arises from the middle of the table,
which is a cool effect.
Amazing seance scene.
They
realize that she is actually carrying the spirit of a deceased Native American medicine man who plans to reincarnate himself through her. And so now they need to stop it.
And they do. They stop it. They have a battle for the ages.
A battle beyond the stars here.
A battle beyond the stars, beyond space and time, in like the 10th floor of a hospital in San Francisco. And the movie does get a lot of a boost from being shot in San Francisco. There's lots of beautiful outdoor scenery. Tony Curtis in it. He plays a scam, fortune teller for old ladies. And by the way, this is real. I mean, this is a real thing. I actually spoke to an older woman one time, and she detailed in excruciating detail her experience of meeting with someone who was clairvoyant, who was giving her lots of good information on what was going to happen or whatever. And I asked, did she tell you what stocks to buy? And she didn't really. That's a sort of cheap thing. You wouldn't want to ask someone possessed of magic powers. They're not a genie. You know what I mean? They're going to give you a very vague, layout for. Though you know what though, I will tell you this. My dad worked for a company, and the company Christmas party, they hired a fortune teller, and they brought one guy over, and they read his fortune, and he said, "Oh, you won't be here in 8 months, right?" And the guy goes to the boss and he says, "Well, what are you going to fire me?" 8 months later, he died. So then they didn't do any more fortune telling anymore. But that's all besides the point. Anyway, Tony Curtis does a nice job playing this role.
Agreed? Oh yeah, he's great. He really has charisma. He has charm. He's bringing it. He's bringing his A game. He's bringing his all to this ridiculous, very, very absurd movie here. But so is everyone, okay? And so Michael Ansara, especially as the modern day medicine man, the good medicine man, or the exorcist, as it would be for this movie, really also brings his A game and has a real presence to him. And their relationship and their connection and the battle between the two of them is actually a very strong part of the movie, I would say, as well.
And Ansara is a great presence. He looks cool. He's tall. He's big. He's like this mythic, salt of the earth American Indian warrior, with this knowledge of how to defeat Mr. Marcus. Isn't that the name of the guy? The name of the Indian. The name of the bad guy demon is like Mr. Like Mistomachus or something, but it sounds like they're saying Mr. Marcus sometimes when they talk about it.
Yeah, it is Misquamus.
Yeah, I can't. But I will tell you, I felt a certain
Misquamacus.
Misquamacus. Yeah, that's right.
Misquamacus.
But that sounded like Tony Curtis was like, Mr. Marcus is wreaking havoc in there right now. But the movie is not particularly violent necessarily. It's not like a total bloodbath, but it is just sort of off-putting in the way that this played by a little person with a really great makeup to look like a very weathered, rugged Indian man, like is growing on the back of this poor woman, and it's just kind of like an off-putting. It's sort of coded low class. Do you know what I mean? It's like very gross.
But extremely effective for being very disturbing, and even more so the great touch of having the medicine man come out deformed because of X-ray radiation. That's just an added level of like taking this up a notch. Let's see, like how much more gross can we get in this movie? We already have a giant tumor fetus growing on this woman's neck. Okay, that's gross. We have the seance scene where the black slime ooze filled medicine man rises from the table. We have the scene where he emerges from her fully grown as this kind of deformed full-bodied person, And
Played
then
by,
also the ice, the scenes where the entire floor gets frozen in ice and the lady just like blows up in front of them or whatever.
Oh, that was terrific. Because so basically at the end when they have to have their exorcist showdown with Mr. Marcus, which you don't. That's the sort of the pattern of The Exorcist, because this is an Exorcist movie. Let's be real.
It is 100% rip off of The Exorcist.
Yeah. So there's always this sort of, we're going in for rounds with the demon. You go in, then we'd go to halftime and we have to go recollect ourselves, and then things happen. And in the intermittent period, they come back and the whole place is frozen in ice, and there's a nurse that's been frozen, and then she explodes because
why not?
Why? Yeah, why not?
Why?
Yeah, it's a ludicrous movie. But Tony Curtis, despite the fact that he's sort of sidelined, in favor of Michael.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair.
He doesn't really have anything to add when it comes to like shaking the little fucking dream catcher at the demon.
But he is the driving force for believing in the impossible, for staking a claim and getting all of the resources that are needed to help. I'm sorry, was her name Karen? I think.
Yeah.
To help her, because the doctors don't want to believe. The doctors are just ready to give up, and no one else will help her at this point. And so he's the one who takes it upon himself to recruit Michael and Sarah and to keep him going, to keep him motivated to finish the job. So I think that morale boosting part of his character is, essential to the movie.
And the first time I watched this, I called you and I was like, what a piece of shit. I just saw this movie. It sucked. Right. And actually,
I don't know. Actually, I don't recall that very differently. I remember getting a message be like, you have to watch this movie. And I'm like, oh,
I said that
Tony
because
Curtis, Michael and Sarah. I'm like, I'm sold. And then I get this movie and I'm like, what the hell is this?
First of all, I want to preface this with saying that the second time I watched this, I enjoyed it much more on its own terms. But you have this movie that's working pretty well for the first half, where you're going to visit the Professor Burgess Meredith, who has these interesting things about the Native American witch deal and all this stuff. And the discovery of what's going on is very interesting. And Tony Curtis is a captivating character. And then when you get to the end, the budget kind of fails the movie. And we have a few scenes of mayhem. And then we get Mr. Marcus creates a lizard to attack the doctors, and it's a guy in a lizard costume that's, transparency over the scene, and it looks terrible. And then at the end,
great. What are you talking about? Come on.
At the end, they just have Michael and Sarah and Tony Curtis standing in a doorway that has green screen around the door, so then they can make it look like they're in space, which is, by the way, something I did in high school, where I wanted to make it look like a guy was going into space. So I put a big green screen in front of my garage door and then opened the garage door, and it was like, whoa, space, when a guy was going back in time. And, I did that when I was 17, but it just gets to be a little ridiculous, especially when we have the showdown of when Susan Strasberg's character, woefully underwritten, gorgeous, very beautiful. I mean, we get quite a view of her towards the end when she's harnessing the power of Gaia or the Earth or whatever, and then is able to shoot lasers at a.
Is she harnessing the power of the Earth?
I don't know.
Is she harnessing? I believe, if I recall correctly, someone or something is harnessing the power of the Manitou of other electronic equipment in the hospital. Boom. And
because this is key.
Yeah.
Everything has a Manitou, right?
Yes.
So everything in the Indian, I don't even know if this is true to Indian lore or whatever, Native American lore or whatever.
That's the fundamental problem with the movie, just overall. Yeah. I'll get to that in a second.
Right. But according to Michael and Sarah's character, a man who, by the way, is Syrian but made a career out of playing Native Americans in film and television. Klingons. Others, let's say, if we're going to be but he says everything has Manitous. If the police came and pointed their guns at Mr. Marcus, the Manitou of the guns would turn against them. And so Tony Curtis has the idea, whoa, what about computers and technology? He throws an IBM calculator machine at Mr. Marcus and it hurts him. Okay. But it
also explodes. It also explodes,
which is fun. And so he goes, whoa, dude. Mr. Marcus is not ready for the white man's computer, Manitou, right? And so then, if you guys can believe this, the computer energy of Manitou computer goes to the lifeless form of Susan Strasberg, where we see her very tastefully nude, shooting lasers out of her hands at Mr. Marcus, which is a little person in an Indian mask, like somewhere else on a green screen. He's like sitting on top of like a green screen, and there's lasers, and then asteroids come flying out, and there's, it's a whole thing, right?
You can't fault the movie for not being ambitious enough. Okay. It just did not have the budget for it. I find that scene just to be like as the entire movie to be like an out of body experience. Okay.
Wow.
This movie is just fantastic on so many levels, and I enjoy it so much more every time I watch it. I actually watched it twice during this. I mean, I watched it with the commentary, but I watched it again just kind of as background noise the second time, and you just absorb so much weirdness, and it just makes it so much better. All the little things that you may not have picked up on the first time.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's a well-directed movie for the most part. Like, this William Girdler guy, he gets slandered a lot as a cheap exploitative filmmaker, but I would believe that more if he was like 55 years old. And he's not. He was 29 when he made this. He just had like a ton of entrepreneurial get up and go, and he knew he had to make things cheap to break in. And before he died, it was working for him. I mean, this is a movie where he got big stars to be in it because he got guys who were like 3 or twice divorced who needed money for alimony and got them to work cheap, which is the story of Ansara and Curtis, right?
Yeah.
And he always tried to up his game in terms of what he was doing when he was making a movie. He shot an anamorphic rather than, 4x3 or whatever he was doing on 16 millimeter before. And his camera work is good. I mean, there's lots of times where the camera moves and pans, and like he does great shots where it's a moving shot, where this is always something that rudimentary filmmakers like myself fail to do, which is like set up a shot and block it to where you're not cutting back and forth all the time. Characters are moving into view, or, it's something that's kind of hard to discuss, but he does a nice job with this. It's well done. And I would have liked to see where he would have gone after this. This was a success,
I would say so. I would have loved to have seen what this guy would have done in the 80s. That would have been
he would have
another
thrived.
world of filmmaking. Okay.
Yeah, he would have thrived.
Yeah. I mean, because think about how much more opportunity would have been available for a filmmaker like this in terms of independence. Okay. So he's doing this in the 70s, which is, it's a tough business to make your own kind of movie like this outside of the studio system. And in the 80s, he would have had a lot more freedom to do things. And he could, still be working today, honestly.
Yeah, he could have done the VHS straight to video transition well, I think. He would have been like a Corman. He's got that same Roger Corman spirit.
Yep. Same kind of initiative. Yep.
And he got financing for all these movies. He convinced the financiers, I got a whole script for this. And he did not, right? He had just optioned the book. He threw the movie together in like a week, and then started shooting.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's the great, and it's the tragedy and the beauty of when these, older established stars have faded. They are able to make movies like this, which I'm sure they saw as trash, but as a reliable paycheck. But it also kind of helps to have their career live on in another context entirely. So having an actor like Tony Curtis, who is he's given it his A game here in this movie, elevating it to a level that, if they had just kind of Joe Nobody doing it, would we still be talking about the Manitou? Perhaps, but not to the degree where it kind of matters a little bit more. So there's that. Also, when we talked about this a little bit on our own, how ironic and interesting that this movie was released in 1978, the same year that Tony's daughter had a huge breakout hit with Halloween. Another horror movie coming out. Father and daughter both starring in horror movies coming out in 1978. One is revolutionary, and one is kind of this experimental dud.
Yeah. But it is kind of wild. I mean, if you're Tony Curtis, though, this might not be such a step down, other than William Girdler's not going to pay you very much. But if you look at your contemporaries, Gregory Peck and William Holden had both done Omen movies. Rosemary's Baby was nominated for Oscars. Why not give something like this a try? And be
starring role, man. Come on. I mean, I think it's Tom Atkins in Halloween 3. The interviews he did later on, he's like, "You want to put me as the star of the movie? Oh, okay, I'll do anything. I'll do whatever movie it is." It's like you get the starring role.
Absolutely, and he's an older man in this, which I think is a little more shocking considering we don't have so many films of Tony Curtis's to sort of gradually ease into his age, like you might for John Wayne or Gary. You know what I mean? So he shaved his signature curly hair, and he's got a very trim, high and tight haircut in this. It kind of makes him look older.
He was not that old when he made this, right? So this is he was born in 1925, and this is 1978. So he's like, 53 years old, not that old, but he looks much older, I would say. Again, that's part of the times and the way, people have aged differently over the years, but
you still got it. And there was something about it that made me feel like he was miscast, because you just don't see, like, I'm like, would this have worked better with like a younger star where you would believe the romance between him and Susan Strasberg a little bit more? But you know what? No, I mean,
I don't think so.
Tony Curtis is a movie star. It doesn't matter. He's a movie star for a reason. He's a magnetic personality. You like being around him. And, I'm on his team when he's doing his whole fake act. In college, I used to be a wedding photographer. That's where I made extra money, and I had a video camera, and I would do wedding videos. And when you're doing a wedding, you have to pretend like you're the wedding guy and like, oh, wow, beautiful. Oh, let me get this cake and all this stuff you don't care about, but to preserve the illusion of romance and love and the wedding and you have to play a certain role. And when Tony Curtis has the old lady walk out of his place, he goes, "Ah, yes, have a great day. I'll see you next week." Slams the door, whips his mustache off, takes off his robe, throws on some funky jazz, and pours out a beer for himself. I'm like, dude, I totally feel this. Like every time I came back from a wedding, took my tie off, I was like, so I get that grind, that hustle of his character. And I like you like him.
You like him. And it's those scenes with the old ladies where he's conning them are also just so wonderful and funny. How about when the other lady starts having the convulsions in his
that's great. Another great
in his
scene.
office. And it's played kind of we shouldn't sound like psychos. We're laughing about this, but it's meant to be played for laughs. And she's having convulsions, and then she kind of floats out of the office, out of the room, down, and then throws herself down the stairs in the most comical fashion.
It is an explosive stair falling scene, and whoever the stunt person was incredible, because like the old lady like drives her head through like 8 banister railings and
of pure wood,
destroys the stairs, in the process of falling down them, because she's been possessed by Sal Manitou, witchy Manitou or whatever.
Yes. To go back, that was part of the I think the fundamental other problem with this is that the reason The Exorcist works on, The Exorcist is a masterpiece and it works on so many levels, but part of the kind of inherent reason that movie works is that it's based on a fundamental thing that most people can find relatable. Most people know about Christianity, Catholicism, Satan, God, all this stuff. We're dealing with a very fundamentally different kind of spiritualism here. And so we just mentioned it ourselves. We don't even know if this is based in any kind of actual mythology or not. Like, is this even real or not real? Like, did they make this up? So I think that part of it takes away something from the movie that The Exorcist had, in that it's based on something that kind of everyone can relate to, on whether you believe in God or not. There's that. This is kind of like, well, we could almost be doing like a, comic book if we were on Krypton with spirits and demons and all that. And it's kind of like, well, it doesn't really mean much. You know what I mean?
100%. It's really divorced. It's kind of like the difference from having the Ark of the Covenant be your MacGuffin in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then your comparison is a crystal skull, something no one really knows or gives a shit about, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have a cultural imprint on anybody, right?
Exactly.
And then also they don't, The Exorcist is a movie that's about something. It's about the old gods and encroaching on somewhere as modern and hip as an actress, a single mother actress and her young daughter in Georgetown, Washington, D.C., the last place you would expect, right? It's about struggle with faith, the existence of evil in a world where things have become gray, right? And this movie is really not about anything. Like there's, Michael Ansara has a few asides about, oh, the white man took my land or whatever, you know what I mean? But like, it's not a movie about America's
finding your faith, for instance, which The Exorcist is also very beautiful about. You have, the young Catholic priest who is clearly struggling with his role in all of this. Tragedy has befallen him. His mother has died, unexpectedly. And he's questioning, like, why am I even doing this? What is my fate? Do I believe or not? And his experience, even though it kills him, causes him to find his faith and renew that. There's no such inner conflict here or anything with Michael Ansara. And Michael Ansara is kind of a gruff and kind of matter of fact explainer of all these things. And it just is true. It's not because I really believe it or don't believe it. It just is. And there's nothing there that kind of layers it.
Like you said, it could have been anything. Cause like, there's no theme to it. Like, there's no idea that like the Manitou is an Indian spirit coming back to like, have revenge for, the treatment of Native Americans. That's not part of it. Not that I'm saying that would have improved the movie, but it's something, you know what I mean? I mean, you have in this movie a man growing like a cancer on a woman's back and then like, emerging and sucking her life force to it. You could have had some kind of feminism angle there or something, but you don't. The movie is about, there's a scary bad guy and we have to just defeat it. And it's going to be fun and enjoyable along the way,
Yeah. The movie's about grossing you out and, taking it to the new extreme and whatever fever dream they were under when they came up with the laser coming out of the fingers and the stars shooting everywhere and exploding IBM computers and calculators and exploding nurses in ice vortexes and lizard people. So, I mean, again, I really enjoyed this much, much more this time. I find the camp value to be very, very high. But this is not a movie that I would recommend except to the most extreme genre fans.
Yeah, like everybody that's watching this.
Yes.
But I wouldn't be like, hey friends, let's pop in the Manitou. They would be
No, they would think, number one, that you're insane, and two, that you need help. You need psychological help.
Maybe we do.
Perhaps. That's a discussion for another day.
What did Tony do after Manitou? I know he became a painter, a rather prolific painter.
The Bad News Bears go to Japan?
Oh, he did? I should watch that. Because I like Tony Curtis.
I do. I like him as well. He seems like a really cool guy. Again, like we said, great presence, great distinct look, great voice.
I bet he's good in this. I bet this is good. I've never seen the Bad News Bears. What is this, the third one? This is the third Bad News Bears movie?
I think so. Third and last. Yep.
Yeah.
And also Regis Philbin in the movie too. Cool.
Perfect. Yeah,
that was probably his. I mean, all the rest of these movies. I mean, he continued to make movies up until 2008. So he was still around. I was kind of disappointed. Unlike, I don't know what their relationship was like, so maybe that's part of it. But I always think it's super cool that in Halloween H2O, Janet Leigh has a cameo with Jamie Lee. And it's just really fun. And I don't know what their relationship was like, father and daughter, that they couldn't maybe do something together. Maybe that's part of the problem, but that would have been fun, to see them do something together.
I tweeted about this. I do think Tony Curtis was a good painter.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't realize that was a thing.
He's very prolific. It's kind of like his stuff is like a mix between like a Van Gogh still life and like Roy Lichtenstein. Like it's cool. I like it. I'm actually gonna look for some and then tell my wife we should hang it up, and then when we do, I'll tell her that Tony Curtis painted it. And
I wonder, are those available?
One of them is. One of them was for sale for like $3,000, like an original.
Oh, that's not a lot for
to own something that Tony Curtis painted. Yeah.
Check out the Return of Stoney Curtis though on the Flintstones.
Oh, we will. Hey, it's me, Stoney Curtis.
Unfortunately, part of the sixth season of the show, which is the worst. That was the last and final year, and there's not many good episodes in there, if any, really. So,
no, I'm sorry. Well, we devised this sort of. Well, I was just going to tell the people that we devised this version of the show to be quick. That we could watch more of these in a quicker time and produce more. And our next episode is. You want to tell the people what it is? The next subject of High and Low.
Oh, the next subject of High and Low. Do I get to pick? Are we definitive on this? Well, then, if it's my choice, we're doing Bela Lugosi for sure, and it's going to be Dracula and Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla.
Okay, actually, you know what? I should have talked to you about this, because I don't want to see people know how the sausage is made. But I was thinking, everyone's seen fucking Dracula. What if we did the Black Cat instead?
Oh, I'm down for that. You were the one who was insisting on Dracula for a while.
No,
I was the one saying White Zombie, actually, because that's a fantastic Lugosi film where he is, center stage. In the Black Cat, he does have to share, with Karloff,
right.
But it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's him as the hero, which is very
Zombie.
No,
Black Cat,
the Black Cat. Him as the hero.
Yeah.
So
he's great in it. But
we'll talk about it. Maybe if we can get you White Zombie, I think you would really appreciate that. It's a very, very unusual kind of golden age horror film, independent. So
yeah, we'll do. That sounds terrific. He's a very interesting character.
And I think that our next show, we're going to be doing the one with a special guest, if we can arrange that.
Yes.
Okay. We don't want to. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No, we're going to be doing the Manitou again, but we're just going to have a guest on, and we're going to talk about.
We should invite the guy who did the commentary track, and talk about the Manitou. I would love to
get him. That's something we've been talking about. Is that I see people with way less views than us get people to come on their show, and we have a good show here. We have good fans, and they like to buy things. I know Cobra Malibu Unlimited buys stuff. He'll probably buy a guy's book if we have him on, right?
And these are good books. I mean, that's also part of it. Is there's a lot of great reference and film history books out there that maybe people don't realize or weren't aware of. And there's a lot of these people, they do the audio commentaries, and that's where I've picked up on their work and their books, and you get them. They're great. So
Absolutely.
we're gonna try. We have another YouTuber we've reached out to, and we're trying to get that one done. George, I know you're gonna be a little busy for a while, so.
Yeah, I am. I'm going on vacation. And then also, if you guys can see, my beautiful studio is it's coming back, but we had some basement problems and we had to redo the whole basement. So for the past month, I haven't had anywhere to drop anchor on and like work on anything. So it's been kind of tough. I do have like 2 movie reviews on my channel in the works: Joe Dante's Small Soldiers and Steven Spielberg's Duel. Those will be my next 2 videos on my channel. So
very cool. Yeah, I'm very slow, and I'm very behind on my Flintstones videos. So eventually it will come.
It's gonna be good.
So
it's gonna be good. Well, thanks, man. We can stick around at the end of the stream and talk for a sec, but we'll bid the audience adieu, and thank you for coming. Thank you guys for showing up in the live audience. And if you could go on iTunes or Spotify, give the podcast version of the Film Journal podcast 5 stars or leave a review. That'd be huge to get us moving on audio, because I know a lot of people would prefer to listen to this on audio rather than YouTube. So we'll see y'all next time.
Yep. Bye.